Welcome to another episode of the CPG Guys podcast. Our hosts, Sri Rajgopalan, Peter V.S. Bond, and Brian Gildenberg explore how brands and retailers engage consumers in an increasingly digitally driven world. And now, here are the CPG Guys.
Hello, folks. Welcome. And this episode was shot live at the Cannes Lions International Festival of Creativity in none other than Cannes, France. And it's awesome to have you, Daniel Torres, join me all the way from Barcelona. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well after an 8-hour drive yesterday. It's good to be here.
Boy, 8 hours, but on the European seaside?
Uh,
Barcelona's got to be seaside.
yeah, but it was in the motorway, so I didn't get much overview, to be honest.
Bummer.
But I'm happy to be here, so it was worth
I went to Saint-Tropez a few days ago, and the highlight I told the Uber driver was take me on the along the seaside, and he took me through the motorway. It was quite annoying, but hopefully the next few days will make up for it. But Jay, we're pleased to have you here on the CPG Guys. Thank you. I know this is a busy week for you. You got a lot going on. You got announcements. You got meetings. Thank you for making time to join us on the CPG Guys Live.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. So I got here in 7 hours, and I was from New York. Not as scenic, but glad we're all here safe and sound.
But equally effective.
It must be that AI thing that helped you cross the Atlantic faster than he could cross from Barcelona.
There's literally
It's
nothing.
the EU border, man. They block stuff, I think. Atlantic, they don't. There's
Oh.
got to be some AI magic behind it. But we're going to discover all that and then some more with you, Jay. But can you take 60 seconds and tell us about what you do at Amazon?
Yeah, happy to. Thanks again for having me here. So I lead the creative tech team at Amazon Ads, focused on AI-generated content, the topic du jour. So all the ads that you see as a consumer across our various properties, whether it be in a store, a Twitch stream, supermarket, aisle, the formats and the creative that goes in, that's my team's responsibility.
Man, you got all the words in there. So we've been waiting to talk to you. Maybe it was serendipitous that this is where we'd meet up at Cannes Lions. Sometimes living in the United States isn't good enough. We got to use AI to travel the Atlantic faster than they do the European motorways, as we've learned today. So Jay, I trolled you a little bit on LinkedIn over here. Looks like you have a pretty solid media background. You've been at NBC Universal, you've been at Spotify, and now with Amazon. What have you learned over the years in this crazy media space? And then what advice would you give an earlier Jay to someone who wants to follow in your footsteps kind of early in their career?
I wish I could go back in time and coach earlier Jay.
Wait, Jay, you're saying AI can't help us do that?
Well, not yet. Maybe
ML?
next year it can.
Next year.
But
Soon enough.
in seriousness, it really is all about timing. We're going to talk a lot about AI. I think we're on a very long-term journey, but the future, from my perspective, is relatively easy to see. It's all around us. You just need to look for it. Predicting when it's going to happen from a mainstream perspective, when certain products are going to be commercially viable, that turns out to be the harder of the two problems to solve. And kind of earlier in my career, I was always guilty of being too early, which is not a flex because being too early is just as dangerous as being too late. I was able to see the world as it ought to be, but was very impatient and wanted to go straight there without fully understanding all of the preconditions required for the vision to take hold. You mentioned NBC Universal and Spotify, but I'm going to take you guys all the way back to my time at Weight Watchers in 2003, the early aughts. I was a mobile product manager when mobile meant the Palm Pilot and the Windows
Hallelujah.
device.
Palm Pilot 1.0.
Okay.
I have one of those.
Did you? Okay, yeah. And how did you feel the first time you held it?
To be honest with you, because we were switching over from the first generation of cell phones to a Palm Pilot, it was actually pretty cool.
I thought it was really cool. I felt like I was holding the future in my hand. For the listeners who aren't so familiar with the Palm Pilot, it was in this category called personal digital assistants, PDAs. And it was a handheld device that had a calendar app, a notepad, calculator, as well as an app store for third-party developers. The catch was that there was no connectivity. And so there was no way to synchronize easily the information that you put on this device up with the internet. And what I did at Weight Watchers was build one of the first branded mobile apps called Weight Watchers On The Go. It took the top 20% of activities that customers were doing, like journaling, looking up food points, totals, and put them on a handheld device. And it worked really well. It like resonated. The challenge is when we tried to actually sync the information between what was being entered in a web browser and what was on a device, and the two would just like absolutely collide. So right idea, wrong time. It wasn't until years later that the PDA got an antenna, years later that the iPhone came out, and even years after that, the App Store on the iOS device was launched. And so kind of I learned along the way that understanding the path is equally as important as predicting the future. At NBC Universal, I worked in streaming circa 2007, and it's just now that it's now the main way that viewers are consuming their television. So it just shows, even though it was super obvious that like streaming was in, Blu-ray was out, these things tend to take time, and I think that we're going to see a similar phenomenon, happening with some of the technology that we're about to get into.
So Jay, is my big takeaway from just listening to you talk about that is, of course, you and I come from the same era, but we won't talk about that because my kids and I are going to make fun of me after when they listen to this particular episode. That is, if they listen to it in the first place, and be like, "Dad, you actually had a Palm Pilot, not cool at all." But I also had a BlackBerry just for laugh and giggles, and a pager.
And a pager.
And I thought the pager was cool and important. I have no idea why, but when the pager would buzz, I'd be like, "Damn, I'm important." But my big takeaway from what you said is be fearless. Be ready to navigate new spaces. And I got to give you guys credit at Amazon for doing that. You might have been ahead of your time in many instances, but I feel like if Amazon hadn't been ahead of its time in many instances, a lot of consumer conveniences today, especially in shopping and in the ability to access product easily from a convenience perspective, I'm not so sure the world would have been where it is today. So my hats off to you guys over in Amazon Tech for having that mentality, and even to the day, like ready to take risks. Not everything succeeds, and y'all are perfectly fine with that. Whereas the rest of the Wrap Pack is perfectly not fine with that, which works to your advantage. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. One of the things along the way is really just making sure that you also have persistence to kind of see your stubborn vision through, and I think that Amazon's a great exemplar.
Yeah, and I think you're being a bit humble here because being ahead of your time, when is that ever a bad thing? But that's probably for another conversation. But I want to ask about your current role at Amazon as VP of Product and Tech, and also how this role intersects with AI.
Yeah, so I mentioned at the start that my team focuses on all of the consumer ad experiences, so the formats that you engage with on the store, in a Twitch stream, even a Whole Foods like supermarket aisle.
And you mentioned creative as well, right?
And the creative that goes in, so all of the creative building tools. And so what's really exciting is that we get to reimagine all of those experiences, some of which have been around for years now through the lens of generative AI. And I think that some of the areas of investment kind of fall into the category of do what we're already doing, but better, and some represent like wholly new experiences that weren't previously possible. And I'm hoping that we get into some of that in the interview.
Let's get a little bit into what does a day look like for you, right? Are you a big voracious reader? Where do you consume your learning knowledge from, etc.?
Podcasts, first and foremost.
Oh man, we love that.
Yeah, we love that. What a
Hallelujah.
coincidence.
High five.
All right.
Have you heard of these guys called the CPG guys?
No, I haven't.
No. Maybe we'll change that today. Yeah. We're gonna find out. So
awesome. No, big fan of the pod, and have been an Audible learner really for a while now. I was talking back in the day about my time at Weight Watchers, and that's really when I started to get into podcasts. There was a podcast called IT Conversation, and this was back when you had to like download onto your iPod, and but I loved it. I just think it's a real big like productivity hack for me, because I'm able to, when I'm working out or when my eyes are otherwise busy, like turn my mind on and learn. And so while others kind of run to the beat, I run to you guys and get to learn as I go.
How about that? Ambidextrous, that's what podcasts actually enable. But I want to get into AI a little bit. Largely in the consumer goods industry, it's a buzzword, because I feel it's a buzzword because people are mistaking ML as AI. But for you guys at Amazon, it's been a reality for like a decade. You guys were serving up things like others like you have also bought, you may like, which is all AI at the end of the day. but the industry is still churning over what is AI and struggling for the actual application of AI. How has AI developed over the years in the world that you touch over at Amazon? And then where do you guys feel it is today? Is it early innings?
Yeah, it's funny. We were talking just before we started recording how AI is both like this term that represents like something far out in the future, like only dreamt up by sci-fi authors, and then over the last couple of years, it's also become this thing that we've been doing all along, for decades. And so, like, how is it that this like one term can occupy like both of those spaces? And it's because there's kind of like the traditional flavor of AI called machine learning, which you referenced, which we and others have been doing for quite some time at Amazon, like 25 years or so. I think our history goes back applying ML in some shape or form, whether it be in the product recommendations, all of our ad products, fulfillment centers, call centers, et cetera. It really does like underpin the current Amazon business. And then there's the a new flavor, generative AI, which had its Cambrian moment like a couple years ago with the launch of ChatGPT, and the ability to create new original content that mimics human creativity. I think is a really big deal. I liken it to the next chapter of the internet. Today it's like really hard to imagine a business that isn't internet enabled, but it took decades for us to get here. So I think, and I'm gonna continue on the trend of showing my age, that we're at the pets.com or like webvan era of AI, to use a couple of web 1.0 references. Sorry to look in your direction, but I know
It's leading me, man.
Yeah,
I use very good creams on my
yeah,
face.
it's good. Yeah.
I actually bought stock in pets.com back in the days.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm talking year 2000,
Yeah,
right before the crash.
is that right?
Not too good, yeah.
Oh, okay. So, like I said, timing is everything. But yeah, I do. I really think it's early days. Most of the startups today will wind up flaming out. But like a few are going to become the next set of digital skyscrapers, and like along the way, lots of very compelling capabilities will be developed that companies large and small will be able to embrace, and continue to innovate on behalf of their customers. I don't anticipate that we're going to be watching full feature films developed with an AI model like anytime soon. But then I think that there are some use cases like ad creative that holds much greater near-term promise.
Hmm. And speaking of like AI and Amazon, I have to imagine that the user experience is directly delivering through artificial intelligence. But can you share where Amazon is on this journey?
Yeah, so beyond like the traditional experiences that I described
The ML.
previously, yeah, the ML, yeah, there you go. You're starting to see new experiences, pop up, like Rufus, which is Amazon's expert shopping assistant that we launched earlier this year and is in the process of scaling up. Like, imagine walking into a store with infinite selection. Stop me if you guys have heard this one before. But instead of being greeted by a search bar, you're greeted by a personalized shopping assistant that helps you find the perfect products, including ones that you didn't even realize that you were looking for. It's trained on Amazon's product catalog and from information across the web, and it's trained and tuned to answer questions that meet your shopping needs, help you find products, compare two things, offer personalized recommendation, and you can ask it detailed questions, the type of questions you wouldn't enter into a search bar, like what should I consider when buying a DSLR camera? What is the difference between coffee maker A and B? What birthday gift should I buy for my 11-year-old niece who likes puzzle games? It's a big idea. We think brands are going to play a very large role in defining the experience, and we're really exciting to be investing in evolving the Amazon experience along lines as such.
Yeah, and that's an interesting one to like, how do you combine customer centricity with brand centricity, with Amazon centricity, if you like, and combining that with all the technology.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like, Amazon's very famous for being like customer obsessed and working backwards from the customer problems, and doing so in the world of AI requires you to equally work forward from the technology and what it's capable of, or soon to be capable of. To my point earlier, you can be too early if you don't understand the path dependencies. For example, customers tell us like very clearly that they're interested in us helping them produce a TV quality video ad, stuff that can go on the big screen and be played between premium shows on apps like Prime Video. You don't need to be a futurist to see that that's where the technology is heading, that text to video is going to be this big thing, or in the case of Amazon, product to video. But these like frontier models are yet to be capable enough to reliably produce ad-ready content for the big screen. When will it be ready? And what needs to happen are really the big questions to answer. And so for us, for me in my role, I spend a lot of time thinking about, do we invest now in something that can take years to develop, or do we take a more kind of evolutionary approach from generating static images to giving them some motion, like steam coming off a coffee mug, to kind of short form videos that could play in a display placement, and then laddering up eventually to TV quality videos, which, as I started this example, is the ultimate destination. But for me, being customer obsessed in this new world of AI means that we're delivering value and features along the way. And so it's not enough to just be customer obsessed during times of paradigm shift. You equally need to understand the technology, where it's at. And so it's kind of like think big, start small, and like scale fast when you see something working is a mantra, and how I kind of like coach the team to invent in this space.
A reminder to our audience that we are making this episode live from the Cannes Lions International Festival of Creativity, shot at Cannes, France, and we are speaking to none other than Jay Richman, VP of Product and Tech at Amazon. One of the things that I always think about is, I think Amazon Fresh store number one, or one of the earliest Amazon Fresh stores, is in Woodland Hills, California. I live in Los Angeles, so I'm gonna go check it out and see what's new. But one of the things I've always thought about as a consumer, the customer of Amazon's, is when you walk into one of those stores, you go through the health section, the assortment on any shelf has 100 health bars, like literally 100. Wouldn't it be really cool to go talk to the device, like you said, and say, hey, pick one that has 20 plus grams of protein, less than 1 gram of sugar, and has less than 100 calories a bar, something like that, whatever your desire is. Is that a realistic outcome in the future?
Yeah, I think it totally is. And you think about like that example. Like you could solve that problem for yourself today. It would just take you time and
Forever.
it would take you forever. And whether that's like walking up and down the supermarket aisle, I don't know about you, I find it to be a dizzying experience.
Completely is.
And so then like the internet comes around, it's like, okay, instead of pacing the aisle, I get to put in search term,
parameters.
right? And so that was like a huge step forward, a step change reduction in friction. And so the question is like, is that it? Have we hit like the local like maxima, or is there like a new frontier? And so being able to just enter in, say, a simple query like health bar or energy bar, and then knowing something about you and your past purchase behavior can return something a lot more personalized without you having to do all of the work. That's like an example where I think we're actually not too far from being able to solve.
So you guys have first of all, that's great to hear. So I'll look forward to that day. But you guys have so many brands on the seller platform, hundreds and maybe thousands at this point, right? And I'll see many of them at Unboxed, but not all of them are equally built for resources. You have many startups. I played that game myself when I started up vitamin brand and sold it to private equity, and it really scaled on the Amazon 3P marketplace. I felt many of the resources on the Amazon 3P marketplace really advantage small sellers. So do you feel you guys are helping small sellers in their journey of content, and now especially with AI, helping them scale should be a breeze?
Yeah, so speaking exactly to this problem, last fall we launched our first major generative AI app called Image Generator. It was designed for small brands with low or no time, budget, or creative skills required to handle the complexity of ad building and the marketing of their brands. Every small brand kind of wants to get to the next level, and we embrace brands growing up on Amazon. And so we launched this simple to use AI tool that produces ad-ready lifestyle images The simplicity of it all is that you just select a product that you want to advertise, and our tool generates relevant backgrounds that highlight the product on display. For example, instead of advertising a sofa on a plain white background, we can place it in a living room and help shoppers better visualize the product in their space. And we can generate living rooms in lots of different styles, matching the creative to each shopper's preference. Like, for example, like what style of living rooms, if you don't mind me asking?
Modern.
Modern?
I love you asking this question. I'm just redoing my apartment, so I'll tell you in a month.
Tell me in a month.
Month
Okay.
and a half.
All right. Well, okay. So we can't solve that problem for you, but we can solve your modern. I thought you were going to go with shabby chic, by the way.
We were Victorian, but that was in Texas days 10 years ago. Then
Okay.
we moved to New York City to an apartment. Everything's modern.
Everything's modern. Okay.
Now we took that to California.
Yeah. Did you actually move the furniture from okay. Regret that decision?
No, not at all, because it was non-negotiable with the spouse.
Okay.
So
Very good. Good answer. So I asked a question to show that not only can we better contextualize the product being advertised by placing it in a space, we can place it in lots of different spaces to help you and your spouse visualize what, in this example, a sofa would look like.
But it's funny you asked that question, Jay, because the furniture dictated the paint of the house. And it dictated new doors and windows, including French doors. I mean, it cost me a fortune, but that apart, the furniture actually dictated how the house is going to be.
Yeah. Maybe you should have just bought a new sofa.
Maybe. Maybe I should have gone back to the Palm Pilot.
Yeah.
But back to what you were saying, right? It's about the experience at the end of the day.
It's about the experience and keeping it super simple. And a lot of these like smaller brands that don't have the time or resources to build ads, like this isn't their job. This isn't their day job. They want to come in and out and have us help them grow. And so to be able to do that by introducing tools as such has been super well received. Advertisers who have been like early to adopt these tools are now submitting over 20% more campaigns than they did previously, moving their budgets towards the ones that perform the best, and are seeing a nearly 5% increase in sales as a result, which is tremendous considering, again, like just how early we are on this journey. Like, I'm really excited and proud to be watching customers, in this case, advertisers, find their customers on Amazon with increased efficiency, and it just goes to show that like the better the ad experience is for the end shopper, the greater the business impact will be for the brands that are serving them.
Here on the CPG Guys, we always tell early startup brands that want to come talk on the show that, D2C will help you collect first-party data, but if you want to scale early, your best bet is going to be the third-party marketplace on Amazon, aka the Seller Central, and then using FBA. That's what's going to help. And then with the help of Amazon ads, you can actually go head-to-head, even though you may have 4 SKUs versus a brand's 450. That you can actually go head-to-head in a given category, so no debate there. But now let's turn our world to large brands. So let's talk Amazon ads and actually helping even large brands scale even further. For large brands, though, the sheer volume of content needed, because they have 500 SKUs, thousands, some like Coca-Cola, PepsiCo have 4,000, 5,000 SKUs. So the sheer volume of content they need between native and standard ads is like completely different. Are you using AI to help brand creators scale easily on the Amazon platform? And then do you believe in test and learn with AI?
Yeah, so we talked about one example for the small seller, right? That's kind of like the 0 to 1 case. Like, I'm going to stick with search ads unless you can help me bring my brand to life through imagery, video. I think for larger brands is a slightly different challenge. They're investing a lot in their creative. And the problem is that once they've built these ads, how do they actually scale them? Historically, in advertising, there's been this tension between standard ads like banners that scale really well across publishers and native ads, which are custom integrated and tend to perform a lot better as a result. And this tension between standard ads that scale and native ads that perform, it goes away when you apply generative AI to the mix. Because now a larger brand can upload their standard ad and we can transform it to fit lots of different shapes and sizes so that it can serve in an Amazon store on an Alexa device on a big screen in a Whole Foods market. And we can do so by leveraging a number of generative AI techniques like upscaling, which allows us to apply super resolution to creative so that you can take a square that was meant to go in the left rail of one publisher website to a big screen that applies on the television or an out-of-home spot. We can apply outpainting, which allows us to expand the creative beyond its original borders, and inpainting, which is another technique that allows us to rearrange the objects on the original ad, such as the button, logo placement, product image, etc., so that all of this complexity associated with having to produce all of these different variations in order to unlock all of this premium inventory, goes away literally at the click of a button.
We should think of like, how can we apply these technologies to our assets, to the CPG guys, FMCG guys' assets?
I'm going to get his advice after this how I can lose some weight because he comes from the early days of Weight Watchers with the click of a button using AI. AI is going to tell me what to do.
That would be a game changer, wouldn't it? So, I mean, you've been in tech for a long time. You've been ahead of the curve many times as well. So I want to learn more. Like, what tech trends are you following these days? Which ones matter, and what would you actually coach us to follow?
Yeah. Well, I mean, first off, I would say I think this is just like an extraordinary time to be working in tech. I mean, just about everything is being reimagined. I want to be. In the beginning, I said predicting the future is easy. The timing is hard. I want to preface that with you also need to be humble because lots of things are going to change over the next decade or two, and you just need to be like super agile. So with that premise now stated, I think some of the areas that are like really interesting are in and around the rise of assistants. I think we're going to see assistants pop up to handle lots of different tasks. I mentioned Rufus earlier, which is a personalized shopping assistant that we launched and are innovating around. You also have seen all these large language models produced by OpenAI and Google that are providing kind of general purpose assistance. You've also seen a number of like form factors start to pop up. Apple just made their big announcements, and you can see how they're thinking about assistants, playing in the phone. Various like clips have like popped up. I personally am excited about glasses. I would like AI in my glasses. I would like AI in my ears. I think it would be amazing to be able to have like a free-flowing conversation between languages. I did that actually on my commute over yesterday. I spoke to my Uber driver from English to French back to English in a very kind of like free-flowing conversation. I wouldn't have had that exchange otherwise. And I think that these types of assistants, these types of true like augmented intelligence are going to change humanity in like a pretty profound way. I had an old manager that used to say, talk is cheap, so let's do more of it. And he would say that as a way to say like the more we talk and like exchange our ideas, the more Socratic debate that we have, the better we will understand each other, the better our world views will become. And so imagine being able to do that like across languages and across borders. I think it's a big deal, and I think that this journey that we're now on will have like a similar impact to like the internet as a whole, and just excited to be along for the ride.
How awesome, man. What a great conversation, and thank you for sharing a lot of your insights with us. A reminder to all audience that you can simply find all of our content by going to a web browser, and Jay has declared it along with the CPG guys. Podcasting is a great way to learn, so simply go to www.cpgguys.com. We want to thank our 33,000 plus followers on LinkedIn. We know that's worth 1 million on Instagram, but the show wouldn't exist without you. So if you know somebody or yourself want to come on the podcast and shape the future of this industry with us, drop us an email at contact@cpgguys.com. That's again, contact@cpgguys.com, and we'd be happy to chat with you. Jay, thank you so much. Again, I know this is a super busy week for you. You have lots going on, but you still made time to join the CPG guys and the FMCG guys and have a conversation with us. So the CPG guys thanks you for being with us today.
Yeah, it's been a blast. Thank you, guys.
As always, Danielle, pleasure doing this with you. I can't believe 2 weeks back to back, one in Barcelona for Shop Talk, and here at Cons, we're actually doing podcasts together.
You know, if we can do this, we can do many, many things.
And AI is going to help get us there.
Exactly, exactly.
There we go. Thank you. That's a wrap of this episode. See you soon in another episode of the CPG Guys.